I'm Megan Crosby. I'm the cantor at Christ the King Lutheran Church. I work with the choirs, bell choir, sanctuary choir, and I'm also on the organ on Sunday mornings as well as the piano. Originally from Iowa, and I graduated from Luther College with a bachelor's in music education. So I did not study organ at college. I studied organ after I moved up here to St. Paul, and I interviewed at a church, and they said, "We would like to hire you, but we want you to take organ lessons, and we will pay for those lessons." So that's how I started learning organ, was taking lessons at the various places where I was working. And my last two organ teachers were Chris Langloy, who's was at Augustana Lutheran Church, and also currently Mark Cedio. I really appreciate the organ we have at Christ the King. The organ is like having an orchestra at your fingertips. There are pipes that sound like strings, like what a violin would make. There are pipes that obviously sound like flutes, a wind instrument. There are other pipes that sound like trumpets or reeds, like a clarinet or an oboe. And having all those sounds is a wonderful addition to all of the voices. Because the organ is a wind instrument, it's very much like our voices, and it's very supportive of singing, and it really helps bring a congregation together when they sing, because our voices, our breath, the organ has breath too. And when you sing and then the organ takes a breath and you take a breath at the same time, we stay together. And a digital organ, much like a keyboard, as opposed to a piano. You know, you can tell that a keyboard is just recorded sound, but the organ is actually making the sound through the wind in the pipes. It's not recorded sound. So hence the difference between like a digital organ, which would just be speakers and recorded sound, or a real organ, which has pipes. And I believe that this leads singing much better than a digital organ.
My name is Russell Draeger, and I am the owner of R.W. Draeger and Company, which is located here in the Twin Cities. I'm a native of Owatonna, Minnesota, and having grown up there, I also stuck around and did my undergraduate in organ at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. And then after that, I moved out east, where I did a master's in organ performance at the Eastman School in Rochester, New York. And following that, I actually moved down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I did my apprenticeship as an organ builder with Richards, Fuchs and Company, which is primarily a builder of mechanical action organs, or organs that basically don't use electricity to do all that they do. So after 4 years apprenticing there, I was made aware of an opportunity back here in Minnesota, where I grew up, to purchase a company, actually, that had been in business and in the area for about 30 years. And actually, they were the ones who took care of the organ here at Christ the King prior to my time. But after working with that company, which was Rutt's Organ out of Morristown, Minnesota, I purchased it, and we have since now relocated here to the Twin Cities, where we serve both southern Minnesota and the greater metro area. So we have been taking care of the organ here at Christ the King since 2017. Before that, it was the company that my predecessor owned. But the organ here, I think, is quite special because it's a group of instruments that were all built and installed around the same time by the Holtkamp Organ Company of Cleveland, Ohio. What made these instruments unique, however, is that they were all done in consultation with John Ferguson, who was the professor of organ and church music at St. Olaf College for over 30 years. So these instruments in this, group are all spread out in the Twin Cities, but I think they were very thoughtfully designed for both congregational singing, accompanying choirs, as well as just being good service instruments, as well as being nice to take care of as well. But in our care of the instrument, beyond normal tunings and maintenance, we also did a thorough cleaning of the organ in the summer of 2018, which is a pretty normal checkpoint for all instruments. We went through the instrument and cleared out all dust and debris that's just caused naturally by the church's air handling systems. But in that time, we were also able to get very familiar with the instrument and where it's at in its life. And that helped us prepare, I think, for this next project, which is essentially to replace the brain of the organ, if you will, and everything that controls the instrument from the console to where the pipes are located. So the work that's coming up on the organ is quite natural in the overall life of a real pipe organ. And I think one of the, at least one of my favorite parts, at least, of pipe organs is that many parts of the instrument can be redone or rebuilt indefinitely. And this creates a situation where you can really hand these instruments down like heirlooms. But the work that we're doing coming up is to essentially replace the brain of the instrument, which both tells all of the pipes and the mechanisms in the chamber, what stops the organist wants to play and in what combination, but also what notes they're playing. And so this system is original to the organ, actually. It's been in service since the organ went in. And now that it's needed to be replaced, what will be involved will be essentially bringing the console, or where the organist sits, back to our shop, where we can outfit it with all new switches and controls, and then we'll also wire in a new controller, which will essentially, again, serve as the brain of the instrument, as the organist is using the organ for both services and concerts and whatever might be needed.
I'm sitting here at the organ console, and you'll notice that I've got the foot pedals, and I have 3 manuals, and each of these 3 manuals has a corresponding section up in the pipes, but it also has corresponding pistons or stops that I can use to get different notes and sounds from the organ. This I call the positive. And all of those stops are right here. They all have different sounds, and if you have different combinations, they have different sounds. I really like this combination. Or you can get even something different. So all of these different sounds available, but these are only for this manual. These stops here are for the great, which is this manual in the center. It's what I use most for hymn playing. Principal sound. This up here is the swell, and those are these pistons up here. And then I have a fun little stop here that clears everything. Everything goes up, turns off. This set is for the pedal. I personally like the 16-foot. All the kids think it sounds like a fart. It's great. So, what's going wrong with the organ is right now it's mainly in what we would call my general pistons. These are combinations. They can affect any of these up here for the whole organ, including the pedal and all the manuals. So for example, number 1 is set here. Number 2 is set there. 3, oh, that stop is supposed to stay on and it didn't. That's part of one of the problems. 4, those stops are both supposed to be on, but they don't stay on. You can see that the division it's affecting the most is the pedal. So this is number 3, which is supposed to have that on there. Number 4, supposed to be getting louder. That won't stay down. It should be staying down. And if it doesn't sound, this is the difference. And if this doesn't come on, you just took the bass away. It's supposed to have this sound. And then 4, it's still supposed to be down. 5, all of these are supposed to be down. And I don't currently use number 6 right now. Oh, there they go. They all went down this time. So I never know what stops are going to turn on when they should. And usually it's the pedal, which is a little disconcerting because the pedal is the bass notes and they are what drive the song forward. It makes it easier for me to lead. If I don't have any bass, then it's harder to keep that music going. So, oh, and then it decided not to clear today. That's exciting. That's new. This is usually down all the time. This is an 8-foot octave. It's a principle of the bass. If it's not on, you don't get hardly any sound with the other stops. So there it's working. If I didn't have that working, the only other 8-foot I have available is this one, which is really, really quiet. And so missing that principal sound of the organ, because sometimes it doesn't turn on, really affects the rest of the sound that I get.
So this is the current controller for the organ. So this system is responsible for sending all of the signals from where the console is up to the chamber, and it essentially tells which pipes to play and which stops to play. But this system was created before really what we know to be modern computing, which involves what's called the microprocessor. So this system basically uses old ham radio parts to directly guide all of the electricity to the magnet that it needs to go to. Now, newer systems are different because they work more like an everyday personal computer. They use both microprocessing as well as software encoding, which allows us to do a lot more at the console. So whereas this system has very basic capability, the new system that we're going to replace it with is going to have lots of new additional features, like the ability to record entire pieces on the organ and then have them played back without an organist, or to do fancy tricks with what are called the pistons, which manage a combination of stops that the organist wants to use. And the other nice thing as well is that the console in the new system will be connected to the new version of this with only one cable, which makes it a lot more serviceable if it should need to be worked on down the road, but also just allows for a lot more flexibility for use during worship as well. Yeah, so now we're in what I call the pipe chamber, or the area where all the pipes are sitting on their various wind chests. And the wind chest is basically just a pressurized wooden box that sorts the wind to the correct pipe. So the pipes in front of you are from what's called the Great Division. And the Great Division is the fullest division in the organ, volume-wise, and it's also the division we typically use for accompanying hymns. These largest pipes over here are from the pedal division, and they're large because they play low notes. The longer the pipe is, the lower the note you get. And then behind me here is the division that we call the swell, and it's called the swell because it's in what's called a swell box. And a swell box has these louvers or shades on the front of it, which are controlled by the organist. And that allows the organist to control the volume of this division relative to the other parts of the organ. So this part of the organ is very useful when the organist is playing with a choir or a singer or an instrumentalist. But when we did our cleaning in the organ, basically every pipe in this entire instrument was removed and gone through. But yeah, you can tell that the builder really had the idea of servicing and tuning the instrument when they built it, because they provided all of these walkways and service doors for me to get in and make sure that the instrument is kept in good tune. What you're looking at is really, I think, what gives pipe organs an advantage over their digital counterparts, because everything that you're looking at right now is not only good for our lifetime, but beyond that. Pipes don't really age. And if you have a digital organ, you're basically at the mercy of how many speakers and how many sound drivers you have. But in a real pipe organ, you have literally thousands of individual sound sources that are operating and behaving in a way that I don't really think any computer could be capable of processing. So it's a much more acoustic and natural sound that you get out of the instrument.